Hello, I'm a young person called Tammy and I'm representing young people's views in this presentation. Wales has a high ambition to become a trauma-informed nation. Wow, well this is a big ambition and we feel passionately about it. After all, as babies, infants, children and young people, we have a right to healthy development and to be protected. This shouldn't just be about surviving. We also have a right to be listened to, and so we would like to say thank you for listening to what we think about the trauma-informed framework for Wales and what it means to us. Let's begin by stating that not all children and young people will know what trauma-informed means. This is both in a broad sense and in our individual lives when we may have experienced something frightening that has affected us for a long period of time. We also have a sneaky suspicion that a lot of adults don't know this either, and that can make things tricky. Not all of us understand or know what helps us thrive. Sometimes we know what feels safe or unsafe, but depending on our age, development, and the information we have, we may not be aware of our rights. There may be a range of barriers that get in the way of us communicating and understanding our needs, and that's why we need adults to consider their power and use it for good to help us live lives that are in our best interest. We think it's great that Wales wants to do all it can to prevent trauma and adversity. This is a fancy way of saying that Wales wants to do its best to stop things that harm us from happening in the first place. We are also happy that when we do have experiences that frighten or harm us, that Wales wants to make sure we get the right response and support to recover. This allows us to make sense of what happened to us, to heal, and to carry on living a good life full of hope. We also think what Wales wants is great, but there is a lot of work to do to make this a reality. But we have some ideas and suggestions about how we could all work on this together. First of all, help us understand what trauma-informed means. We need to understand this so we know how to spot the signs in ourselves and others and how to ask for help when we need it. This can start by helping us understand what trauma is. We need to understand both the big and scary things, but also the smaller things that can have just as much as a harmful effect, such as things we didn't get in our lives. Help us also understand what we need to thrive and how important relationships and community are. This will be very important as we will be growing up into adults who can make a difference to the future generations. Finally, help us understand how we can all be affected differently, and do this so you can remove any stigma and shame. Think carefully about how you explain this all to us, but also remember that we may know how best to teach us. Some of the ideas about the ways you can help include stories, videos, accessible written information, websites, in-person workshops, assemblies, activities, events, TikToks, YouTube videos, reels, animations, and real-life examples of communities or people who are doing a great job of being trauma-informed. Whilst doing this, it's important you've considered how learning about this could affect us. Please take care of us, and also give us clear information about what we can do if we get upset. Obviously, try not to upset in the first place, so think about focusing on the positives and the things we have control over. It's important to help us gain more power and control. You need to support our families and significant people to be in the driving seat. You need to make sure we are safely strapped in and that the journeys you're taking us on have a clear roadmap. Responsibility needs to be placed on the adults to create change, but please involve us in all the ways you can. We also believe it's important to make the experience fun and positive. Overall, we want to do more than just sitting and talking, as being involved in fun, creative activities can make the complex information easier to understand. All of these things can help distract us when covering topics that make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. We also believe that extra consideration should be given to specific groups of young people, as you saw just then, LGBTQI+ young people who are care experienced, and young asylum seekers or refugees. Sometimes hearing from people our own age or the same culture from us can help too. Co-production is important to us as well, so please think about how you will do this in a meaningful way that represents a range of voices and viewpoints for all ages and backgrounds. It's also important to tell us what happens next and what you have done with our information, ideas and input. Sometimes this gets forgotten about and it can make us feel less valued. You may want to think about what incentives you can give us too. Lots of young people say they're just happy to be involved as long as it's fun and they feel like they're making a difference. But there may be other young people who need that kind of incentive to get over the barriers they have. Give us a choice about how our involvement is honoured. Our most important message is that we need to be at the centre of this work, both in how we can be meaningfully involved, but also in what difference this work makes. It should always leave us feeling better off afterwards and have our best interest at heart. We can make a big difference together, but we do need adults to share their power. One young person summed this up beautifully. Yes, we need to let children and young people know about this, but a lot more emphasis should be put on making sure professionals, families and communities know about this, because in reality, children and young people have less power and control and cannot be the drivers to bring this to fruition. This should be done for us. This doodle was done by Tammy, a young person in Platform. So for now, it's back over to you. Thank you for listening to our voice and for having high ambitions for Wales.